Hi, George here, and today I'll be showing you 3 different ways to remove backgrounds from a picture, and we'll be using this image here. It's fairly easy to remove the background from most of the figure here, but there is some real tricky stuff in the hair up here, so this is a good sample or demo to work with. Now in this video, I'll just be talking about removing backgrounds as just one aspect of what you can do with Photoshop Elements. If you want to see what else you can do and learn the rest of this program, my recommendation is to use my complete training course for Photoshop Elements, and I'll put a link for that at the top of the description. Now, the 3 techniques here, I'll be showing you one that I've used a lot in the past. Then I'll show you a more modern technique here in Photoshop Elements and an AI technique for our 3rd version. Okay, let me just maximize this picture first here. That's Control 0. There we go, fit screen. And we'll start off with the easiest. This is what I used to do for a long time. It's using a selection tool and using Refine Edge. I'll come down here. Let's just grab the standard lasso tool. Set this at a new selection. I'll leave my feathering at 0. And I'll start right up here and just work around the hair. I'm leaving some space up there. Let's leave some space around the figure in here. There we go. And take your time on this. Whenever you make a selection, this is usually the most critical part of the whole process. So always take your time to get a good selection. And come around here. Now again, this is going to be fairly easy because we'll be using that refined edge once we're done. And around over in here. Let's see if I can get in here a bit. That makes it easier for refined edge. There we go. And back up around in here. Around this hand over here. And then go back around the head and back to our starting position. Let's just cross over that starting position and let go. And here's our selection. At this point, you can zoom in on this. I'll use the scroll wheel to zoom in. We can also use the space bar to move the image around, but we can't do that when we're using Refine Edge. Let's go down here, click on that. Here we go. Here's the Refine Edge dialog box. I have mine set up with the overlay, which I think is normally very easy to see. But we have several in here: marching ants, overlay on black, on white, black and white, on layer, and reveal layer. Sometimes these other ones are useful for checking your edges, but normally I'll just leave mine at that overlay. And you can see here, here's the size of my brush. And the brush size is way down over here, left-hand side in the options. Right now this is at 35. The size of your brush will depend upon the size of your image. Obviously, your bigger image will take a larger brush to get the same effect. And I like having my brush larger than what it is that I'm brushing over, larger than that space I'm coming into, but not too much larger. So right about here, that's pretty close to fitting this perfectly. Now, the way you use this brush is you just brush in like this and let go. And then Photoshop Elements goes in and tries to find the edges in that one area that you just brushed over. So the brush isn't actually doing the cleaning up of the edge. Refine Edge is doing that, but is using your brush stroke to know where to look to do its adjustment. This is usually very good at this, and this can make for a very quick selection. Okay, so let's come around and do all these edges. Let's get this down out of our way like that. Now, if you want to move this in here on the Refine Edge, come down to the hand button right here, and you can then move that around using that hand tool. Then back down here, this is the paintbrush tool for our Refine Edge. And just take your time on this. I like working this in just a few short strokes like this. It seems to work better. And let's work our way around here and down to the bottom. Again, let's grab that hand and move the window a little bit. And we'll finish this up. Now, sometimes it may have a bit of a problem like it did in there. Just come in a few times and it should catch it. Also, whenever you're replacing the background, it's going to be the easiest if you can replace it with a background that is similar in color to the existing background, or at the very least similar in values. And I'll go ahead and we'll finish this whole thing up, then we'll see how this edge looks. It may come in too far on this. That happens sometimes. Okay, grab that hand tool again, move this down here. Back to our brush. Let's finish off this process right around this hand. You can see this is actually very fast. If I wasn't talking so much here, I would have already been finished with this quite a while ago. There we go. There's a little bit of sky poking through back in there. You can sometimes catch it if you pull it in from the outside like that. Just keep on going. If it doesn't catch that, that's where coming in and using a similar color background helps, because that would then blend in with the new background. Okay, see how well we did. I'm going to change our view here to on black. We can then see our edges. And notice we have a little bit of a blue haze showing around that. Again, if I was using this onto a similar colored background, then that would be okay. It would just blend right in with that. We can try to clean this up a bit. If you want to come down here where it says contrast, you can boost your contrast. This will sometimes clean up areas. There we go. It's pretty good down here. You can also shift the edge either out or in. I'd be careful on doing this too much. You can't shift the edge quite a bit too far. You don't want to have that happen, but a little bit sometimes can help just to get rid of that outline showing in there. Okay, let's go ahead and go back to our overlay. Normally when I output this, I'll go to a new layer with layer mask, choose OK. That way the original stays put here and I can then use it for something else, or if I have problems, I can come back to that. Now I want to put in a different background here just for testing purposes. So let's come down here where it says background. I'm going to right click on this, duplicate that layer. That's going to be saving my backup copy here. Let's come down to the original background, come down here to graphics, and let's set this at backgrounds. Let's just choose a nice blue background here. There we go. Looks pretty good. A little bit off on the hair up here. Very hard for a fine edge to really do a good job on that. It's great if you'd have harder edges. It's not so good if you have things like flying hair. I have a technique that takes care of that, no problem. Okay, Control-0 to fit screen. So that's our first technique here. Let's hide that one. Let's bring back in our background here. Let's try our second technique, and this is using the subject select. Go up here to select, come down to subject. This is much faster because you don't have to drag that selection around the image. There we go. Here's our selection, and it's looking pretty good. Now, if I zoom in, you can see that this has missed some things. It missed the fingers up in here. Did a nicer job along the edges, though. That's very good. Missed a little bit right down here. If I pull it up over here, it again missed it in the hair. Now, we can go right to refine edge. I'm going to leave the radius at 0 this time. Let's see if we get any real difference on this. Sometimes different settings will help with different pictures. And let's move our image. And I'm just catching just the edges where there's some blue showing in here. I'll leave everything else alone. There we go. And let's get the fingers over here. Like that. Looks pretty good. We have that spot right down here between the feet. Let's just grab that. There we go. So as you can see, using that subject select saved us some time. And let's output this to a new layer with layer mask. There we go. Much nicer on our edges, much smoother. So this gave us a better selection and it did a better job on the hair up here. So this is an improvement. We're getting better on this one. I'll do Control-0 to fit screen again. And for most uses, this would be just fine. The hair looks really nice at this size. If you have an interesting background in here, that would be okay. So using that subject select, which is available in later versions of Photoshop Elements, and then just a little bit of refine edge should get you most of the way there, again, for most uses. Now, if it's real critical and you want a really careful selection in here, you want to get the hair perfect. Let's say you're doing something for a client and it does matter, then I'd recommend using a different tool. And for that, I'll show you my favorite AI-based tool for removing backgrounds. And here we go. This is the AI Arty Image Matting tool. AI Arty has sponsored videos on my channel in the past, but this video is not sponsored. I just happen to like this tool a lot, and you'll see why in just a minute here. This is an AI-based tool. It goes in, finds your subject, it does the background removal for you, and does a real nice job on getting things like this hair. But the first thing we have to do is to do what's called an inference. Click on Start. And give us the first example of this. We can then come back in and do tweaks on the settings if you want to or if we need to, and we'll let this thing work through. Now, one thing about AI Arty is that this works on your computer. This is not going up online anywhere. So you download the program, you install the program on your computer, and it works totally on your computer, which means the faster your system, the faster this works. And there we go. Let's just see how that did. And notice that the hair is really nice in here. It got all of those little pieces, including the little pieces right over in there. I scroll in a bit here, you can see that. Did a great job on the hair. There's a lot of effects you can do over here. You can do different backgrounds. You can feather, you can blur, lots of stuff, lots of tricks. I won't be doing any of that. All I care about here is just removing the background. Let's go over here, right-hand side at the top. Here's the alpha mask. You can come in and tweak the mask this way. And if you notice the hair right up in here, as I pull this mask around, I can control exactly how much of that is being masked out, how much is kind of in that gray area where it's just partially transparent. So you can tweak this pretty well. It's pretty easy. Below that, we have our standard methods in here. Alpha Standard, Alpha Edge is good for hard edges. And then these get harder and harder as you go down. So the softest edge is Alpha Standard. If it's not quite good enough, I would then move down to Alpha Edge like this. This will require doing a new inference. Click on Start. Let it run through the second inference. This goes again pretty fast. And I think that's even better in here. So that's a good choice for this, the Alpha Edge. mostly because everything in here is a relatively hard edge. Even the hair is a hard edge. It's just kind of thin, wispy, but still hard edges. I think that's a really nice and really clean selection. Now, I don't have that Photoshop Elements background to drop in here, but I can come in and drop in a medium to light blue background. Let's click on background. And then right down here, we have our color. Click on the color. And that's about the same color range as our background that we're using over there in Photoshop Elements. Choose done. And there we go. You see, did a real nice job on the hair, much better than we had over in Photoshop Elements. So if the background removal is critical, this is the program that I would use for that. If it was not so critical, if I was just doing this for myself or family photos, whatever, then Photoshop Elements is good enough. But again, if it's critical, I would go here for the AIRD image matting. And there you go, 3 different ways to remove backgrounds. Choose the one that works out for your needs, and you should be just fine. And again, if you want to have more training on how to use Photoshop Elements, I do have that complete training course. I'll put a link for that at the top of the description. Make sure you hit that thumbs up. Also, make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any videos in the future, and I'll see you next time.